So, Premier League weekend 3. Penalties, handball, VAR, goals, red cards. Had everything, didn't it? Hello, my name's Richard and welcome back to my channel over and over and over again, which features everything to do with Arsenal. In this video I just want to maybe expand it slightly more out of Arsenal and do my weekly roundup of the Premier League weekend 3. Just before I do that, I just want to make sure that you are all subscribing to my channel. If you like what I'm doing, please click on the subscribe button below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up as well, because it does help it to get noticed on YouTube. And also as well, if you've got any comments to make about this video, please drop them in the comments box below. It's always nice to hear from you guys that are watching my videos. So then, Premier League weekend 3. Just as we thought there could be no more drama after the first 2 weeks, it seems to have been even more, doesn't it? A weekend filled with controversy, penalties, VAR, all kinds of stuff, and obviously a lot more goals as well across the 8 games. Exciting stuff at the moment, isn't it? I suppose the best place to start is probably the opening game of the weekend down at Brighton at the Amex. Of course, Brighton against Manchester United. Now, there seemed to be everything went on in that game, didn't it? Obviously, the big issue was the penalty right at the end for Manchester United. I just really want to say, actually, first of all, Brighton were initially one of my tips for relegation, and they've actually surprised me how well they've been playing. And they might have lost 2 of their first 3 games, but they were against Chelsea and Manchester United. But I feel they've played well in all 3 games. Graham Potter, I did give him credit actually at the start of the season. I think he's a good coach, good manager. And I've been really impressed with how Brighton have played. They were really unfortunate to lose this game. They hit the woodwork 5 times. Amazing, really. Just seconds after they got a last-minute equaliser to make it 2-2. Sonny marched with that goal. In the final seconds, really, a corner, a header from Maguire struck the arm of our old friend Mopay, and the ball was cleared off the line. And the referee, of course, initially blew the full-time whistle, but VAR then looked back at the handball and decided to award Manchester United a penalty. Now, it's gone in Man United's favour, another penalty, and we don't want to really give that any sort of praise or credit whatsoever, but I personally believe it was the right decision. The handball happened during the game, it wasn't after the final whistle. The handball happened before, and actually it was the right decision. His arm was up and his arm was up, wasn't it, to block the ball. Yes, he didn't intentionally mean to handball it, but it struck his arm in an unnatural position, if you like. So it was the right decision, actually, this one, for a penalty, and unfortunately Bruno Fernandes scored to give Manchester United the victory, but it was the right decision. I think that's important to remember. But of course, that was just the start of the controversy, wasn't it? The second game of the weekend, of course, at Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace against Everton, 2 teams that had won their first 2 games of the season. It's quite a good game, this as well. Calvert-Lewin scored another goal. He's in my fantasy team, of course, so he's my top goal scorer at the moment, my top point scorer as well. So I'm delighted with him. He got another goal. Crystal Palace did equalise soon after with a header from Kouyaté. And probably a draw seemed to be a fair result. But Everton then got awarded a penalty for a handball decision, which was quite frankly ridiculous. Crystal Palace defender had his arm by his side. The ball just hit his arm. How on earth can that be a penalty? I mean, Roy Hodgson was upset after the final whistle, wasn't he, with his comments about it? And he's right. It's ridiculous. Richarlison scored the penalty and Everton went on to win 2-1 to keep up their 100% record. But you have to feel sorry for Crystal Palace, actually, because if that's a penalty, then, I mean, there's going to be, as there has been, there's going to be 5 or 6 penalties every game, isn't there? It's ridiculous. But unfortunately, that wasn't the only one of the weekend, was it? The third game on Saturday was an absolute thriller, wasn't it, at the Hawthorns? West Brom, of course, who'd lost their first 2 games against inconsistent Chelsea. I mean, what a game that was. The first half, West Brom amazingly were 3-0 up, wasn't they? Just unbelievable. What I would say is that the mistake that Thiago Silva made for Chelsea on his debut to gift them, I think it was a second goal, wasn't it, when he basically let the ball run under his foot. If David Luiz did that for Arsenal, you can imagine the stick that he would get from Arsenal fans, from the media. It was almost written off to a certain degree from Thiago Silva, wasn't it? Which I was a little bit disappointed about, because I say David Luiz would have got a lot of criticism for mistakes like that. Credit to Chelsea, they did come back well in the second half, but you can see that Frank Lampard is struggling to coach the team defensively. They're all over the place. And I think that's going to be their downfall. I thought the equaliser as well for Chelsea was again slightly controversial, wasn't it? When you look at the handball situation, the ball that struck one of the Chelsea players, wasn't it, in the penalty area in the build-up to the goal, struck his arm. Again, a bit similar to the Crystal Palace defender. His arm's not in that unnatural position. He hasn't moved his arm towards the ball. He's hit his arm. They gave a penalty to Everton for that, and yet they decided that they're not going to disallow that goal. Because it was an accidental handball, if you like. So the rules are just bonkers, aren't they? And then, of course, Chelsea ended up scoring from that same attack. So, again, a little bit of nonsense going on with VAR and with the handball rule in particular. Again, that was a feature of that game. The final game on Saturday wasn't the greatest game of the weekend, was it? Burnley 0, Southampton 1. Danny Ings, again, another player in my fantasy team, pops up with another goal. He's doing well for me at the moment, so well done, Danny. Thank you very much for that. Hope you can keep it going, or I'll drop you. I'd say it wasn't the best game, was it? Burnley played quite well. They were maybe a bit unfortunate. It's the first win for Southampton. I think Southampton are going to be okay this season. Burnley worry me a little bit. They don't seem to have a very much strength in depth today. I don't think he even made any substitutes, did he, Sean Dyche, in that game? Burnley have got a few issues, so we'll see what happens with that. And then we moved on to Sunday. And again, there was lots more drama, wasn't there, on Sunday? The first game was a Yorkshire derby, Sheffield United against Leeds. Apparently, it was the first Yorkshire derby in the Premier League for 19 years. Amazing, really, when you think about it. One of the biggest counties in the country. And they've struggled to get two Premier League teams in the league at the same time. It actually was quite a decent game considering it only finished 1-0. And Patrick Bamford scored again. It's the third game in a row. There's a lot of people out there who didn't think he could cut it in the Premier League, but so far so good. I mean, I think he's been playing well, and he's got 3 goals now in 3 games, so you know, might be worth looking at him for fantasy team as well, although I'm not quite sure he's going to continue this goal scoring run indefinitely. What I liked about Leeds actually was the fact that they defended a lot better in this game. You know, their first 2 games they conceded 7 and scored 7. They did need to shore themselves up a little bit, which they did. Sheffield United actually, although they haven't scored a goal yet, and they've lost every game, I thought they played well as well. It was a good game. It was an even game. Maybe a draw would have been a fair result in actual fact. The Leeds goalkeeper played well, didn't he? But I say Leeds nicked it last minute, a header from Patrick Bamford. And we obviously play Sheffield United next week, don't we? So I'm sure that they'll be looking to get their first goal and their first points against us. So I think we need to watch out for that, because they played well. Let's not, you know, they might be near the bottom of the league and not even got a goal yet, but they certainly played well in this game. So they're going to be a dangerous opponent for us next week. The second game, of course, was at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And of course we laughed at the final result and the final few seconds of that game, but again, it's a ridiculous handball decision for the penalty, isn't it? Eric Dyer's facing the other way, going up for the header, and it's just hit his arm. And yes, his arm was away from his body, you could say that, but he wasn't in any way, did he not move his arm towards the ball. The ball's hit his arm, and I do think that this handball rule needs to change. It needs to reflect the intent that might be there, or even just the action towards the ball. As Roy Hodgson said in his interview, you can't just give a handball because the ball's hit somebody's arm. If they know nothing about it, that cannot be a penalty. And as much as we laughed, as I say, and as much as we enjoyed, you know, Callum Wilson then sticking that penalty in to give Newcastle a point they didn't deserve, they were only shot on target in 90 minutes, where as Tottenham hit the post and hit the bar and all kinds of stuff in that game, they should have been 4-5-0 up. From taking that aside, that is a ridiculous decision, isn't it? And we've got to understand that sooner or later one of those decisions is going to go against us as well, and then we'll be really upset, won't we? So we can't just dismiss that because it went against Tottenham and it's funny. We need to, you know, the whole rule needs to be looked at and changed, because it's a joke now, isn't it? There were more penalties galore actually at the Etihad in the game between Man City and Leicester. Leicester are flying at the minute, aren't they? I mean, what a result that was. Very unexpected. Leicester ended up winning 5-2. But they did get 3 penalties in that game. Not so much for handball this time. They were fouls, and you know, having seen the game last night, I think they were all penalties as well. They can't really have any complaints. Man City were quite awful, actually. They had a good start, took the lead, but Leicester played really well. They went with a plan, and they carried it off. I mean, the goal that Jamie Vardy scored in between his penalties, a little flick at the near post, that was a lovely little goal, wasn't it? And of course, anybody who's got Vardy in their fantasy team will be quite happy with a hat-trick for him to go with the 2 goals he got on the opening day of the season. So I think I'll be definitely looking to try and squeeze him in my team in the next week, because I've missed out again on quite a lot of points. But it was a really impressive performance from Leicester, actually. When you think we won away at Leicester during the week in the Carabao Cup, yes, a different Leicester team, but we had a much changed team as well, and I think that puts that result into a little bit of perspective as well. But yeah, credit to Leicester. Yes, 3 of the goals are penalties, but they played well. They definitely deserve to win. And Manchester City have looked increasingly poor, oddly, since a certain Spaniard left, Pep's little right-hand man. He looks lost, doesn't he, Pep, actually, now. What I noticed was in his post-match interview, actually, he looked as though he's completely lost his enthusiasm and his passion for Manchester City, and it looked to me as though he's on his way out. That was the impression I got, but we'll see what happens with that. But Man City were very, very poor. But I say credit to Leicester. That was a great win for them. 5-2. Well, the first time Man City conceded 5 goals at home since Arsenal won 5-1 at Main Road in 2003. So there you go. And then the final game of the weekend, of course, yesterday evening. Again, it was quite a shock result, wasn't it? West Ham beating Wolves 4-0. West Ham, of course, who lost their first 2 games, but of course we remember they gave us a great game, didn't they, last weekend? So they carried that performance in to the game against Wolves. I mean, Wolves were poor, actually, very surprising. They're normally, one thing with Wolves is you can normally guarantee they're organised, they're strong, and they don't capitulate. But they certainly did capitulate in the second half of that game last night. They were extremely poor. I know they've lost a couple of players. Obviously, Doherty's gone to Spurs and Jota's gone to Liverpool, hasn't he? So Wolves haven't quite looked the same team this season yet. To the team that's done so well the last 2 years. I don't think they're going to be in any problems. I still think they're going to be mid-table safety, no problem. But I was a little bit disappointed with how they played, actually. And I was even more disappointed that I've got 3 of their players in my fantasy team. The goalkeeper, Rui Patricio, Jimenez, who scored an own goal, which was fantastic. Shame you didn't get one in the other end, mate, but never mind. And Traore. Again, fair play to West Ham. They've had a few issues, haven't they, with COVID tests and all kinds of stuff going on, but certainly that was a great performance from West Ham, so congratulations to them. So that was them games at the weekend then. I say some madness going on in terms of VAR and handballs. That does need to be looked at, because we can't carry on with that as a rule in the game. It's just ridiculous, and it completely spoils the whole spirit of the sport, I believe. And judging from other people's reactions at the weekend, they feel the same as well. Of course, there are 2 games today. Of course, the big game is clearly the one at Craven Cottage, Fulham against Aston Villa. What a game that's going to be. I do have Jack Grealish in my fantasy team, so if he fancies pulling his socks up quite literally and scoring some goals, that would be much appreciated, because I've had a terrible week. Apart from my regulars Calvert-Lewin and Danny Ings getting goals, the rest of you, you need to have a good look at yourself, I'm afraid. And of course, then there's a tiny little game at Anfield, of course, at 8 o'clock tonight, isn't there? Liverpool, whoever they are, playing against Arsenal, I think, but I don't think anyone will be watching that, will they? So the focus obviously will be on the Fulham Aston Villa game this evening. I think that's about 6 o'clock, isn't it? 5:45 or something that kicks off. So make sure you all tune in to that game. I don't bother watching the game at 8 o'clock because it's a tiny little game between 2 rubbish teams, so it won't be worth the time. So that's that round up there the weekend. Hope you enjoyed that. Let me know what you think about all this handball stuff in the comments. I think it's crazy, but it has led to some more. It has led to entertainment. Let's put it that way. I don't know what's going on with defending actually this season. We've had 3 weekends in, and already teams are letting in goals right, left, and centre. Clean sheets are very rare. It's good to watch and it's fun, but I do feel as though there's a few issues going on in the game that need to be looked at, because it's become a little bit of a joke now. I mean, 2 or 3 of those handballs were, whoa, come on, I mean, seriously. So that's that. I'll say, let me know what you think in the comments below. Obviously, I was joking about the game tonight, 8 o'clock. I mean, it's going to be a great game, isn't it? A massive game, and it's a game where I'm actually excited about watching how Arsenal are going to perform in this game, because I believe we're going to put in a great performance at Anfield tonight. I was inspired by Leicester's performance at Man City. I don't see any reason why we can't go to Liverpool and play in a similar way. I'm not assuming we're going to score 5 goals, although, well, if we did. And let's bear in mind as well, we have got a couple of players still to come in this transfer window, which I'm convinced, 100% convinced that at least one's going to be announced later this week. Very exciting signing as well. We'll obviously stay tuned to the channel for that. But that's that today. So I hope you enjoyed that. Please click the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. I say please give this video a thumbs up if you like it. And please let me know any comments that you've got in the box below. Stay tuned tonight, because I will be doing some coverage of the game when the teams are out about 7 o'clock. Also at half time and at full time as well. Just a little roundup, and then tomorrow I'll do a full in-depth review of the game, looking back on it, hopefully with some real positive, great stuff to look back on, and a positive Arsenal performance at least, and hopefully a positive result. So that's that for now then. I'll speak to you all again later, and in the meantime, of course, as always, come on you Gunners!